Hey everyone, and welcome back. Before we begin here today, please make sure that you like and subscribe because it really does help out our channel, and it also helps us reach others who want to test their math skills with these types of test questions. So this will be our 26th part in our math skills series. And what we have going on here is that we have to solve this expression shown on the screen, this nasty looking thing, and we have to solve it without using a calculator. All right, so this is just a specific type of problem. And what I'm going to show you how to solve this type of problem without a calculator is only specific to this type. So if you ever get asked this type of question, which to be honest, I've honestly seen it a lot in college schools, a lot of college math courses, just throwing this in as a trick to see if you know how to do this without a calculator. So this is how you would solve this type of problem. Now, this type of problem, let's look at the numerator first. So looking at the numerator here, anytime that you have a series of four numbers being multiplied together, four whole numbers being multiplied together, this is what you can do. So in this case, we have 21 followed by 22, 23, and 24. So you want to rearrange these. So let's rearrange the numerator such that it looks like this, where we have 21 by 24, and we're going to isolate that, and that's going to be multiplied by 22 by 23. So essentially what I've done is I've taken the 24 and threw it over here next to the 21, and of course we have plus 1 over here at the end. Well, what is 21 by 24, and what is 22 by 23? Well, they're going to equal to exactly the same thing, or not exactly the same thing, but very close to being the same thing, which 21 by 24 is 504. And then 22 by 23 is 506. And then, of course, we have that pesky plus 1 there at the end. Now, the plus 1 will come in handy here. So what I'm going to do now is that I am going to separate out the 504 and the 506. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make them exactly the same numbers. So this will then be equal to 505 minus 1 multiplied by 505 plus 1, and then plus 1 at the end here. So the 504 is 505 minus 1, and then 506 is 505 plus 1. So the goal is trying to get these two numbers to be exactly the same, and then you want a plus and a minus 1 inside of your brackets here. So multiply these through, and then you end up with 505 squared, leave it in its squared form, and then it's going to be minus 1 squared plus 1 squared, or not plus 1 squared. So then it's going to be plus 1. So what does this equal? Well, minus or 1 squared is just 1. So minus 1 plus 1, they disappear. So you're left with the square root of 505 squared, which the square and the square root will cancel with each other. And then you're left with just 505 in the numerator. So this entire nasty looking thing just boils down to a very simplistic number at the end if you rearrange and do this trick. Well, looking at the denominator now. Well, looking at it, it's kind of the same order, right? It's four whole numbers being multiplied together in series and then plussing 1 at the end, all under a square root. Keep in mind that the minus 55 is not under that square root in the denominator. So it's going to be basically the same type of process, the same type of trick, but now we're going to be working with the denominator. So let's scroll down here just a little bit. So the same thing as what we're going to do is what we did with the numerator is that we are going to rearrange and basically throw the 14 with the 11 and make the 12 go with the 13. So the denominator, after rearranging here, becomes 11 multiplied by 14, kind of isolated by itself, even though it's still going to be multiplied by the 12 with 13. And then plus 1. And of course, I'm not going to put the minus 55 until the very end. I'm just worried about what's underneath the square root. So same thing here again. What's 11 times 14? Well, 11 by 14 gives me 154. 12 by 13 gives me 156, and then plus 1 here. Well, what can I do here with making these two the same numbers with a plus and minus in there? Well, it'd be 155. So the square roots, and 154 is just 155 minus 1. And then 156 is 155 plus 1. And of course, plus 1 there at the end. Well, if you multiply these two portions together, What happens? Well, this just comes out to be the square root of 155 squared, leave it in its squared form, minus 1 squared, and then plus that 1 in the end. So looking at this, it's the same thing as before. 1 squared is just 1 minus 1 plus 1 drops out. You're left with the square root of 155 squared. Well, the square root and the square will cancel with each other. And then in the denominator, under the square root, you're just left with 55 or 155. Well, keep in mind, we still have this minus 55 here. So in the end, what I end up with is this. I have 505 at the top. I have 155 minus off 55 in the denominator. So this ends up with 505 divided by 100, and we can all divide by 100 pretty easily. So this just ends up being 5.05 as my answer. And that's how you would solve that specific type of question without a calculator. Keeping in mind, it has to be of this form for this trick to work. You have to have 4 whole numbers in series, and then you need a plus 1 still being underneath the square root for this to work. And you may think to yourself, well, when am I ever going to see that? I will tell you that in the engineering program, under the math courses that you have to take, you will see this type of question occurring in there. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned a new math skill from it. And if you want to test your abilities even further, please check out the other videos on the channel. Also, if you haven't done so already, please like this video, leave a positive comment below, and subscribe to the channel, because all of that does really help us out. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.